Hello, everybody. You're listening to James, and for the benefit of those on the audio, you're listening to my regular Friday afternoon stream on YouTube called Ask James, where I welcome questions from the YouTube community on anything football related. And this week, as it's obviously international break, I specifically asked, be great to have some non-fantasy questions. Let's see if people have listened. Let's dive in, guys. So we'll start with infamous FPL. Which attacking player is a must-have before game week 9? Get that nice and short and sweet, mate. There's no such thing as a must-have or essential player in FPL, mate. Templates are about to move. Mohammed Bedruddin says, hi, James. You think it's time to have a capable playing bench because of all the injuries and the coming schedule? Worth taking hits to achieve that? It's probably not worth taking hits to achieve that, but it's kind of what I believe since the start. It's why I picked 4.5 million defenders at the start, was that in mind. Yeah, it's going to be rotation, there's going to be injuries, there's going to be late illness issues. We've seen an Irish player, Brown, playing the game last night and has tested positive after the event. Great, isn't it? I mean, yeah, I do think a bench is important at the moment, but I don't think we should be realising that coming into game week 9. For those who have the first wild card still intact, you should probably stay on the route you're on generally. For those who've already used it, yes, a stronger bench is generally advisable in FPL. NUFC Ahmed says, hello, mate. How many points do you think Spurs get from the next 3 games? City, Chelsea, Arsenal. How many points would it take for you to consider them title challengers? To be title challengers, what, for me to think after the Arsenal game, yeah, we're in the title race, we would need 9 points. I think at that point I might go, okay. How many points do I realistically expect Tottenham to get from that lot? Anywhere between 2 and 4. Can't see us going through that run unbeaten. I'm Davey says, who do you think will finish in the top 6 come the end of the season? Exact order, 1st to 6th, and why? Well, the Joe Gomez injury to Liverpool is pretty catastrophic. That's probably one too many now, isn't it? So Joe Gomez has had a knee operation, I believe. We don't know how bad that is, but I'd suggest that you had an operation on your knee quite soon after injury, then you're not playing for quite a while. So I think we could certainly probably rule him out this side of 2021. So, I mean, Trent out as well. Any more injuries defensively, and they look like a mid-table team defensively. So, to be honest, on that, I'd probably City for the league again now. I know they're off. I know they're not playing well. They've got a run of fixtures now where they can obviously get up a bit of a head of steam. And I think they will. So I think City first, Liverpool second, Chelsea third. Yeah, Tottenham 4th at the moment. That's how the bookies would have it. United 5th, Arsenal 6th. That's how it would go at the moment. Leicester, interestingly, I was looking at some of their data earlier. I'm going to cover this on our Patreon podcast. We're going to do a little bit later today. They're still overperforming their XG in spite of the fact they've had so many penalties this year, which obviously naturally bumps up an XG. Although I've obviously converted, I think 7 from 8. So that naturally is going to put you sort of 0.25 ahead every time. They've got players to come back. They're the most likely to break into it. Whether they can maintain consistency when expectancy started to get to them last year, I think, when people were like, oh, these lot in the title race, etc. Wolves, still very good defense. We've got a brutal run of fixtures between now and January. Southampton, I think, will find it more difficult once we get into December and everyone's playing 3 times a week. But really good, really impressed with them. Everton, I think you've seen, I mean, they've conceded 2 goals in all 4 of their home games so far. That's not sustainable if you want to push towards the top of the league. That if you remove a couple of the players from that team, then they're still quite a way off at the moment. Villa, really good. Imagine if Grealish is out for 2 months, though. So, same thing. Villa are doing really, really well. I mean, they haven't conceded a goal yet in 3 away games, which is impressive. But I still think come May, the natural order will probably just about be there because they'll level out a level of consistency, basically. I'm Davey says, that's a question we just covered. Chris Duran's, hi James, you mentioned on the stream last week that if wildcarding now, travelling up on Man City assets would be a viable option. Which 3 would you go for if you were in that situation? De Bruyne, Sterling, and whatever's affordable. It would probably fall to Diaz, maybe. Diaz or Foden, I think. Not to overkill it, basically. I wouldn't go for Jesus or Aguero, personally. Kyle Walker could be a more expensive but possibly slightly safer choice than Diaz. We don't know yet if obviously Diaz is going to be sort of susceptible to rotation in Premier League games. But I suspect they're starting the Champions League games. They've obviously got 9 points from 9, so they're nearly through. Means that they can go full strength in the Premier League until December. And that's really what they should do over sort of the next 3 or 4 fixtures. So I would probably go De Bruyne, Sterling, Diaz, I would think. The only caveat to that is I would want to force in Salah as well. And therefore, it would probably have to be a forward line of 3 players around about 6 million or so, which I think it feels like it's edging towards that sort of template anyway. Scott Fitzgerald says, hey, James, do you think Gareth Bale should start against Man City on merit, or should it be Lucas Moura or someone else? It's probably going to be easier to start him than bring him on in this sort of game, oddly enough. I think it's possible that in a couple of these upcoming games that Bale was used as a striker. Just to kind of ease him in and get him away from defensive duties. It was clear, I think, to Spurs fans in the Ludogorets game and again in the West Brom, slowly getting there in terms of fitness off the ball, but he's still nowhere near the level you'd want. Against City, I would probably pick Lucas, to be honest. And that may be the case for the Chelsea and Arsenal games as well, which is why I have a feeling, particularly say against Arsenal, we played 4-4-2 last year and it really worked. He obviously played Kane and Son up front, that he might do that with Kane and Bale against Arsenal, for example. And obviously Harry can still do his kind of dropping in bit and whatnot. So I think I would probably go Lucas against Man City personally. Rhino's Lead says, what are your thoughts on 3-5 subs? I find it annoying how the top managers moan about TV schedule whilst picking players from their huge squads paid for by TV money. I spoke about this very briefly on one of the podcasts earlier in the week about my annoyance with Klopp and Guardiola coming out after the game saying, scheduling shit, we need to have more substitutes. And then in the game, they both had a 5-day break. From their Champions League fixture. And then in the game between them, they only used 3 subs out of a possible 6. So what difference would 5 subs have made? Still only would have made 3 subs, right? Wouldn't have made any difference. So what is the point? These big clubs have the biggest resources. That's why they're in the blessed position. Go and use your squad properly. Rotate more from the start, etc. I completely get it. Injuries are up, muscle injuries. We kind of knew this thing, unfortunately, was going to happen. What happened to Van Dijk, for example, and what's happened to Joe Gomez, by the sounds of it, that got nothing to do with the amount of football anybody's playing. You get a bone injury like that, bad times. There's the muscle injuries, obviously, we can... But then take Liverpool at Atalanta. Klopp took Trent off 10 minutes before the end when they were 5-0 up. Right, we're 5-0 up with half hour to go. Take him off with half hour to go. So... managers have got to be responsible for their own players. I have to say, Mourinho has really managed it really well at Tottenham in terms of the rotation. Think of that period we had in September with the 4 games in 8 days. Really, really managed the squad well. And the top clubs are in the best position to be able to do that. Rotate more. It's not like Liverpool don't have Jota, Shaqiri, and other players that can come into the squad. I realise that they are stuck a little bit at the moment because of injuries. City have been the same. We've got loads of available players. Use them. So, I mean, none of us really want 5 subs. The one thing I did like about it was obviously that it was fixed into you can only use 3 select periods for substitutes. I think that was right. None of us really want the 5 sub thing, do we? I don't think. The fear for me is that it gets allowed and we stay with it. And that's what the big clubs would love, that it goes to 5 subs permanently. It is obviously 5 subs in Europe this year. I have to say, in the European games for Tottenham, so it's not bothered me. But then in that competition particularly, you really want to rotate players. So for me, it's just about just getting through it and moving on. But no, generally, I would definitely rather stay with 3 subs. Suvanch says, thoughts on Ziyech as a long-term FPL asset. Saw a stat today that Ziyech in the last 2 games has created more than Everton, West Ham and Arsenal combined in those 2 game weeks, which is fairly impressive in itself. It's to be seen, right? He's played Burnley as Sheffield United. He obviously looks an extremely good player. I think very quickly you'll find people are going to shove him out wide and put him into alleys that he doesn't want to go into. People are now going to be aware of the threat. So, I mean, his value, could he be a long-term hold? Yeah. Would I be thinking right now if I bought him, I'm keeping this guy for 10, 15 weeks? No, I don't think you can be in that position to think like that. Adrash says, went for Rashford and Bruno Hall instead. Should I switch to Bruno from -4 now to avoid further pain or be patient? Well, Rashford obviously did join up with the England squad, was pulled out with this shoulder injury that he picked up against Everton. So England did assess him and have obviously decided that he's not fit. So he's going to be a big question mark over in between now and West Brom, isn't there? So, I mean, you should definitely be patient until next Friday. And that goes for nearly every transfer that you should consider at the moment. I've made an early transfer, but that was to save on Trent losing value, and I've gone to a 3.9 million defender. So it doesn't really matter. If that 3.9 million defender gets injured, that means I'm 1 short on the bench now. That's all it means. But generally speaking, none of us should be making transfers right now, in my opinion. Sven van den Acker, great name, says, hello, James. On a wild card, would you go 3-4-3 with Bamford or 3-5-2 with Jota? I would go with Bamford of the 2. I saw today, and it's interesting, obviously, Clash the Correspondence. Yes, the FPL tactician was on, our Leeds correspondent, and we spoke about the preconceived idea of Bamford, and obviously he misses chances regularly, etc. He's still missed more big chances in the Premier League than any other player so far this season. That's not a bad thing. Look at the goal at Palace, the one that counted, and the disallowed goal. Took them obviously extremely well. Bamford. Jota is very much a punt at the moment. Honestly, don't be fooled into thinking Liverpool are definitely going to go 4-2-3-1 now with Jota, Firmino, Mane and Salah all definitely playing. Honestly, I think they basically played 4-2-4 against City to force them back defensively and pin up against them. And the 4-2-3-1 against Sheffield United, I think, was to compensate against Sheffield United are very strong in the wide areas. That's the only place that they can create overloads and hurt you, basically. So let's see. Liverpool have got a run of fixtures coming up where pretty much I would say from now till the end of the year, Liverpool fans will be hoping for maximum points. Genuinely. The 3 toughest games they have on paper are Liverpool, Wolves and Tottenham. Leicester, Wolves and Tottenham, all at home. No Liverpool fan doesn't expect them to win any of those games. So they'll be looking for maximum points in this upcoming period. Therefore, I think they'll lean into what's going to be their strongest system. I still think once you've got the likes of Keita back fit and Thiago Alcantara, that it will be free in midfield personally. So now Bamford for me, I'm not as keen on the Jota train as everybody else. Good day, James, says Ahmet. Hello, Ahmet. Robbie Butler says, did you watch the Champ Man stream last night? Was impressed by the guy's knowledge of Strictly Come Dancing and Pop Stars, the rivals. No, I didn't. I jump in a couple of times to see how the guys were. Had a great number of viewers in there. It looked like it was great, the little bits of it I've seen. But I intentionally kind of didn't want to be in there showing my face when they needed the opportunity to get on with what they were doing now, Teach Mode and FPO Irons, and I think they did great. So no, I've seen a few clips of it, etc. It looked like the relaunch of Champman went really, really well. I will be involved at some point. I had a decent first week, scored 82 points. So I'm involved, I'm playing, but I'm kind of looking on at afar. I want to leave the guys to crack on with their streams without feeling like I'm over their shoulder at the moment, because I've got to do things their way. No, I didn't see any of the Strictly Come Dancing and Pop Stars knowledge, though. I'm pleased I missed that bit. Savanch says, I want to bring in Fernandes, but he just seems to be a very boring pick. Well, don't do it then. Pick 2 out of Sterling and KDB, Fernandes, Mane and Ziyech. Fernandes and 1 of Sterling, KDB. Sorry, I asked a boring question. I'm going to give you a boring answer, most likely. Ahmet says, what do you think about Werner triple captain this week with Kai coming back and Tammy on bench, Werner up front again? I mean, really? Newcastle away is what you've decided is the best triple captaincy option of the whole year for any player. You don't actually know that that's going to happen either. triple captaincy for me is a hold for a double game week, generally speaking, unless there is something absolutely blindingly obvious. Why didn't you do Harry Kane away to West Brom last week? I mean, from a triple captaincy perspective, that would have been a better choice. At least you'd have been beating the ownership of nearly everybody else when he was so highly captained. Just captaining Werner against Newcastle will be a differential in itself, Ahmet. Don't see that. Joe Finney-Bader, hi James. Predictions for Morocco versus Central African Republic tonight. I've done the detail on that one. Joe, I'm going to go 2-0 Morocco, mate. Danny McDonald says, do you think the loss of TAA will impact much on Liverpool's creativity and attacking threat? Well, it certainly can do because Trent is such a unique and different source of creativity from his deep position for Liverpool. But the one concern I would have had for Trent and now do for Robbo is actually that 4-2-3-1. If they become more structured in the way they play, does Mane block off Robertson's overlap quite a lot if they decide to go and play that system? So creativity-wise, yeah, of course it's going to hurt them a bit. Direct free kicks as well outside the box. His corner taking, free kick taking. Absolutely, of course. You lose a player like that, it's definitely going to hurt them a little bit, no doubt about it. Cambley Lobacta says, afternoon, James. I've got Dallas and Ayling in my team and we'll be looking to lose one of them soon. Any thoughts on which one to get rid of? Cheers, mate. Well, I asked Andy the question again yesterday, which one? And it was only when I was editing back, I realised I asked the question. He'd fucking dodged the answer, basically, the clever bugger. Dallas picked up a very heavy knock for Northern Ireland last night, potential arm injury. He did finish the game, but was reportedly in a lot of pain. Now, remember what happened with Heung-min Son? Got the injury against Villa in February in the first minute, carried on, finished the game, scored the winning goal in the last minute, was out for 3 months. Played the whole game with the injury, an arm injury, because sometimes adrenaline just gets you through. So you might find that this time next week, my friend, that Dallas could be ruled out, and that might make your decision very, very easy. Keep an eye on, obviously, people like Ben Dinnery and Scout for information on that, and obviously Leeds official communications as well. Danny McDonald says, also, do you think that we are overlooking Liverpool's fixtures considering Man City's fixture swing? Yes, I do. It might even be, I haven't decided what I'm doing as a Pulisic replacement next week. I can get to anyone but Salah, basically. Now I've moved Trent down. I think I'm going to go to Bruno myself, actually. I haven't decided yet. If not, it'll be De Bruyne or Sterling. I definitely want De Bruyne or Sterling the week after, but feel like I want to attack it the week after, and missing another week of Bruno might not be clever. And I really like the fixture they've got at Southampton. And if I don't buy Bruno for West Brom, I probably won't buy him, is the point. So I think I'm going to probably lean to go to Bruno first. He's also an extra additional captaincy option for next week, and I may well captain him, actually. At the moment, I'd be bust on Calvert-Lewin, which I'm not keen on because Fulham look a little better since, obviously, Anderson's come into the team. But I'm infused by the fact, obviously, Richarlison will be back for Everton. So I'm probably going to go Bruno. But then after that, it might even be that when City play Burnley in game week 10, it might be that I go to Salah first when Liverpool play Brighton. I might decide, actually, that that's a priority. I won't know for a week or so until I get there. Someone's saying there's a bad echo. I don't know why that would be, guys. Apologies. Someone just let me know in the chat if that echo is still ongoing. I haven't seen anybody else mention the echo. Just sold for no echo. No, it's all good. Okay, thanks for that, guys. Much appreciated. Rob Dillon, so who's the best TAA replacement? It's probably one of the Chelsea boys, isn't it? Chelsea or City, I think. Diaz, Walker, James, Chilwell, all very viable. I've skipped all of them. I've bought Nico Williams. I just think it's a brilliant punt for me because I've got a full squad of playing subs. That if he plays, 3.9 million for a Liverpool defender is absolute madness. If he doesn't play, nothing lost. Substitute comes in for me. So that's what I've decided to do. I think that by the time next week comes around, and obviously Gomez's injury has increased the chance of Williams playing, but obviously now in a worse defence. So Nico Williams, really interesting. Really interesting. I think he's also one that those on the likes of Mitchell perhaps Roman Saiz, who can't get up to these other City Chelsea guys, might want to consider. So I think it'd be one of the City or Chelsea guys, generally speaking. Crystal Palace, if you've got no major fires, have 3 brilliant fixtures. And I can definitely see the temptation why people would think about PVA in the next 3 games or so. Personally, if I was going to Palace, I would go cheaper and look at it as a rotation option, playing for the next 3 games, leave them on the bench afterwards. That would probably be more my fault at the moment. I think if I was going for, if I wanted to get a defender and I wanted to get them in for attacking returns, which those who've owned TAA probably feel like they want, I would go for Reece James, personally. Daniel Koppel says, has anyone seen Willian? You'd have to ask the boys at Arsenal Fan TV, wouldn't you? They were all screaming in the summer, he's a better player than Ziyech, weren't they? And now they think he's washed up and that. Make your mind up. We spoke about this a lot with 35 Who on Clash of the Correspondents yesterday in terms of, and he explained really nicely the idea that William is a structure player for the way Arsenal want to play. I would strongly recommend listening to that. William is not the only one who's on the missing list for Arsenal at the moment from a creativity perspective. Rishi Patel says, would you risk rotation Cancelo over Diaz? I probably wouldn't. Zinchenko obviously is in the wings and Benjamin Mendy is back fit. If he's going to give Mendy minutes, he's going to give Mendy minutes against some of this shit opposition they've got coming up, in my opinion. So we don't know, however, obviously if Diaz is a rotation risk. Worth saying Nathan Ake picked up a hamstring injury for Holland, so he's likely to be out for a while. That probably makes Diaz a bit more safe, although I think as I've said in pre-season, I think Ake will be in as an understudy for Laporte and an emergency backup at left back. So Diaz, I think, would be the safer play, personally. Yes, Cancelo more likely to get you an attacking return. Diaz has been a bit of a threat at set pieces, though. It would be Diaz for me. Vincent says, Son and Kane to Vardy, De Bruyne / Sterling worth it for -4. Or rather go only Son to Ziyech, generally -4 worth to bring Man City in with previous results. So there's I did a bit of research for my advanced tier patrons and posted an article from on Wednesday night, looking at some data from game week 8, and there was a really interesting stat I found on De Bruyne. So De Bruyne, since Klopp took charge at Liverpool, De Bruyne's been involved in more goals against Klopp than anybody else, except for one player, Jamie Vardy. Yeah. So Jamie Vardy has an incredible record against Liverpool's Jurgen Klopp. So ordinarily, would I say it's worth taking a -4 to get Vardy in for Kane? That's essentially what you're looking at. I think the answer still has to be no, because you can make that for free the following week. Realistically, for that to pay, Vardy has to score at Anfield and Kane has to blank against Man City. That's the only way it becomes worth it. I think when you sit back and you think about it, you go, no, it's probably not worth it. So it sounds to me like the best route for yourself, Vincent, is Son to Ziyech and then Kane to Vardy for game week 10. Seems sensible to me. Kieran Fell says, good to see you, James, mate. I hope you're well. Likewise, Kieran, hope you're well. Karawa Demon says, Ampadu is 4.4 million listed as a defender, playing box to box for Sheffield. No brainer, in my opinion. False. Playing box to box, mate. please do show me those touch maps where he's playing box to box, mate. He's the sitting midfielder of a throw. He's not going to get attacking returns. In the same way, Oliver Norwood only got attacking returns last year because he took the odd penalty. There's not going to be a lot else for him. He might get one from a set piece or something, maybe, because he's decent aerially. But if you're looking at him as like a Lundstrom or something, no, you're looking wrong. But yes, he could be a very good option. I've done a bit of a fixture tracker up to game week 17, which is January 2nd, and I actually think Sheffield United have the 4th best fixtures. So I think the likes of Ampadu, Brewster, these cheap little options could be really, really nice. The other just note of caution on Ampadu is John Egan went off against England last night. I don't know the state of what that injury is, although it was believed at the time that it was likely concussion. Obviously, if it was just concussion, he'll miss Ireland's games and he should be back for Sheffield United's game against West Ham 9 days from now. But Ampadu, yeah, he's a decent shout, 4.4 million, but you don't expect attacking returns. Anderson FPL says, hi, James. Soufal or Cresswell with Kane to Vardy and Cancelo for Mitchell next week. Oh, I'm not sure what's going on there. Soufal or Cresswell with Kane to Vardy. So you want to know Soufal or Cresswell. I just think Cresswell's too much, personally. I realised like his attacking delivery, etc., is really good. He's got great volume for crosses. I think he certainly when I last looked, he had the best baseline BPS of any player in the Premier League. It just feels a little bit too much for a West Ham defender for me personally. So Soufal, but I genuinely, me personally, I prefer Masuaku over both of them. Ash says, hi, James, no question. Just thanks for the content. You're very welcome, Ash. You watching the golf this weekend, mate? I will be having a very sport-free weekend, my friend. Got to switch this brain off for me, the amount of content we do now. So I'll be taking it very, very easy. I probably will not watch anything till I watch England on Sunday night against Belgium. So I'll be taking it very easy. If it's interesting at the end, I may well watch the end of it on Sunday night. But that's the way I tend to watch of golf, to be very honest with you. Alex says, thoughts on Foden, thinking of replacing with Grealish. I know he's got great fixtures ahead, but how many minutes will he actually play? Thanks. How long's a piece of string? God knows, right? I've got Foden. It's been a bit bugging, but it's also to be expected. Did I expect to be in a position where he probably wouldn't start 3 league games in a row? No. Does that change now? I don't know. It's not the biggest fire I've got, though. Admittedly, I might even leave him on the bench in game week 9, and I might move him on. That said, I've already got Grealish. It's easy for me to say. But if I move on, I'm probably moving into Salah, KDB, Sterling value if I decide that's what I'm going to do. Otherwise, he can hang around for me, and even if it's 25, 30 minutes, he could be picking up returns as a great little differential. But Foden to Grealish, generally speaking, I can't argue anybody for any reason wants to get Jack Grealish at the moment. His value is going to keep flying as well. I think even like with a blank against Brighton, his prices still keep going up because of the fixture run they've got up. So I'm not going to put anybody going for Jack Grealish yet, but please do wait till next Friday when you know he's in the clear, etc. Ian, have I got it right this time? Sorry, mate. It was on my end. Have a good way to talk about the volume. No problems, mate. John MacArthur. Hey, James. Still drunk from last night's escapades. On Sky, can't get to Diaz. Is Cancelo too much for a risk? Yeah. Passing tears with Diaz, mate. That's not a Sky move, really, my friend. Dorian Liam, who's obviously last year's Sky champion, says, afternoon, James. Would you rather win the Sky game, get £50,000 out, win FPL, and get the fame? I'll take the money all day long, Dorian. We've had this question loads of times. What fame anyway? Jesus. Listen, if I win the Sky game, everybody will know about it. So to make sure of that. I would take the money all day long. Fame or 50,000. I'll take the money all day long, mate. Literally no doubt about it. Al Dante says, it's also a lot more realistic, by the way. Al Dante says, still not over the Bamford scandal, and it's been a week. The offside. Yeah, let's not go there. DC says, good afternoon, James. How did Chapman game week 1 go for you? Missed having you on the stream, but thought the guys did a great job. Love the chaos. 2 goalkeeper red cards. Yeah, Scott Parker in goal. Brilliant. Love it. As I mentioned earlier, 82 points. The guys did great. Daniel Jarman, 3 power midfielders or 2 power midfielder and 1 power striker. So we're saying Kane or no Kane, basically. Possibly. Or are we holding it for Vardy or Aguero, Jesus? Personal preference. It's not right or wrong. I'm leaning towards the 3 power midfielders, I think. Owen Kinnear says he'll bite your hand off for the 50k, Liam. There you go. Joe Finley Badder, Son to Rashford or Kane to Vardy worth -4 this week. Rashford would be captain if I got him. Well, as seen Joe, I don't think anybody's going for Rashford at the moment, so it would have to be Kane to Vardy. But none. I'm not sure either of them will work. If Rashford's fit, maybe the -4, but it's got to be enough doubt now that he doesn't even start, hasn't there? So I don't think either of them are worth it. Irish Maverick says, all right, James, keep up the good work. Thank you. Atul said, I was playing Football Manager 2019 and started with Villa and Grealish injured before the season started. Obviously, we are dead last as of now. All right, you need to probably get a better assistant manager or something, mate. Wan King says, thinking of moving Barkley to Grealish. Thoughts? Barkley's numbers against Arsenal were great, right? Really hidden, good data. I think he had the most key passes in game week 8. Actually, if you just looked at the statistics, Barkley is not a million miles off Grealish in some of the creativity stakes at the moment, but Grealish on the eyes. It is on levels at the moment. I think if you're blessed to be in a position, where you can make it easy, then fine, crack on, but definitely don't force it. Shamil Galani said, biggest waste of talent in your lifetime? Question. Those that didn't live up to potential because of attitude, getting in trouble with police, etc. Ravel Morrison for me. If Greenwood rumours are true, it could be him. I'm not going to talk about the rumours because they are just that. If anybody wants to know what Mason Greenwood rumours are, feel free to jump on the internet and particularly Twitter. Jack Wilshere always springs to mind, Sham, because I think a lot of it was attitude. He enjoyed himself off the pitch as well. I realised that the injuries obviously massively didn't help him. I know what you're saying about Ravel Morrison. I mean, you could argue really Gascoigne to certain levels in terms of Paul Gascoigne should have dominated world football. And again, part injuries as well. That didn't really happen. Marcus Edwards is a name many of you might not know, but one of the most phenomenal talents I've ever seen at Tottenham. He's out playing in Portugal at the moment. He should be in the Tottenham team tearing it up at the moment, but he didn't have the fucking motivation for it. Rishi Patel says, Vardy, Sterling or Fernandes to join Ziyech, Salah, De Bruyne, Bamford, DCL, Grealish. Rishi, man, what sort of you asked me which one to buy. Probably Bruno then. Addy Tour, hi James, what was the first Spurs game you saw? Well, that's dependent because my dad took me to a game with Leicester in 1984 that finished 2-2, and I was 9 months old. So I didn't see a lot of it. I don't suppose. The legend of the story is that when the crowd chanted, I stayed quiet, and when my dad shouted, I cried. Nothing's changed since, except I join in with the crowd now. Memory. I mean, I went to every home game from 1990 onwards, right? So it always, as I grew older and began to think back, that record stays, it's the opening game with Manchester City in 1990. But I went to quite a few before that as well. But then you go into before I was 6. So to be honest, there were so many games in my childhood that memory-wise, and what your first memory? I remember being at Arsenal, obviously in the away end at Tottenham when I was like 5 or 6. I remember coming out the ground for one of them. Dad was like, shut your fucking mouth. Not in those words exactly. Atul says, also, can you explain what you think is going on at Wolves? I thoroughly enjoyed watching them last year, but this year they just look flat. And if they continue at this rate, top 6 is not happening. I think Bradley spoke about this, Bradley Parker on Clash the Correspondence last Thursday we did with Aaron Lagle before they played Leicester. And he spoke about an intended movement towards more of a possession-based game, which will take a long time to transition because they've been a team that's obviously happy to spend a lot of time without the ball, and they became excessively good at counter-attacking situations where they could even be outnumbered. They could have Jimenez and Jota 2 against 4, and the 2 of them would find a way to score. Then obviously the impact to Traore. That's the biggest thing for me. Traore frightens the life out of people and also opens up space for other people in the team because you can't leave yourself one-on-one with Traore. So that's the biggest thing. I questioned Bradley on it then and said, like, you've got to get him in the team. He doesn't particularly disagree. They've also got players who are still integrating into the team, like Neto, Podence. They've obviously changed the wing backs. It's going to take a little bit of time. It's worth saying that this time last year, Wolves were in a far worse position than they're in now, by the way. They started last season very badly and obviously massively improved. It's early. I'd be concerned for Wolves by the fixture list that's coming up. They've got the worst grouped fixtures for the next 8, in my opinion. The only green fixture they have is Burnley away, which nobody particularly looks forward to or enjoys. They've got a really difficult run, but it's the sort of fixtures that often benefit them. They'll get points in those games, no doubt about it. I wouldn't worry too much about them. It's difficult. What's Wolves fans' expectation? Do they realistically think they should finish top 6 this year? I don't think that it's realistic. I think they are capable of doing it, but it's not realistic to expect it. They don't have the resources of what others have had, and also they've lost, whatever your opinions on them are, they have lost players that were key for them in Jota and obviously Matt Doherty as well. So I think it's a little bit of an evolution for Wolves. And it may take some time to see the best of it. It might be that you don't see the best of it till March, April, generally speaking. Alex says, need to move our Trent, and Saiss was thinking Diaz plus either West Ham or Villa defender. Already have Chilwell and Martinez. Big thanks. Then I think because you've got Martinez, you're probably going to be looking for West Ham, aren't you? So generally, Masuaku for me. Paul Sweeney, can I -12 as I have Trossard, Greenwood, Saiss, had a mare? This sounds like a wild card, Paul. Even I'd be fitting right now sitting on that, probably wild card. I can't answer that for you till next week, Paul. Trossard is probably not your biggest problem unless he's out injured. Saiss could be back in the Wolves team, believe it or not, because there's a rumour going around that Aït-Nouri might have picked up an injury. I know obviously Marcal's fit as well, so you need to wait, Paul. But can you? I mean, yeah. You probably don't need to do it all in one go, but yeah, you can. You need to prioritise probably moving the bigger hitters there. So Greenwood and Wilson, for example, and then decide whether you want a -8 or not, and then remove the following one afterwards. That's how I'd treat that probably. Adam Button says, game is more open with 3 subs. I feel tired legs. FPL telling Josh, afternoon, James. Hope you will, mate. What are your plans for Pulisic if he's out again this week? As I mentioned earlier in the stream, KDB, Sterling or Fernandes. I will probably lean to Fernandes. Francis Logan says, thinking Wilson out for a couple of game weeks and bringing in Richarlison for the Calvert-Lewin double up. Thanks. I don't hate it, mate. It's 3 good fixtures for Everton. It's Leeds and Burnley afterwards, I think. Francis Logan, just done you. Your log, you should say Isona still look to take him out this game week with the news Aït-Nouri is injured. Perfect timing. The answer will probably be yes, but wait and see how long that injury is, and it might be worth taking another week to sit on it. Gurang says, my current best team has 8.4 million in the bank. Is it crazy? Nothing's crazy, mate, but spend the fucking money. Perlo's Pen, do you read anything into this Bruno Homevie away point scoring likely to buy this week and a bit hesitant to captain? So here we go again. Stats, right? You read what you want into stats. So Bruno has not scored a goal from open play in home games for Manchester United since he joined the club. His only goal, I believe, other than penalties, was a free kick that he scored against Bournemouth during the restart period. Away from home, his numbers are insane. Unbelievable. Why is that? Probably United find it easier to counter away from home than they do at home, would be one potential reason. It's also potential the type of fixtures that they've had could be another reason. So as much as our Bruno home fixture, that's not good, is it? He's also the only player in FPL at the moment who's got 20% of his team's FPL points. Thank you, FPL Canal, for that stat. So he's also, depending on it, you can look at it and go, you don't get returns at home, or you can look at it and go, Jesus, I really should get the guy that's the best talisman in the whole game at the moment. You choose. You choose. You used to say you're a bit hesitant to captain him. That wouldn't put me off, mate. At the end of the day, that sort of thing is not going to make me look beyond the fact they're playing West Bromwich Albion. I think, oh, no, I don't. I think West Brom will make it difficult for them. I think they'll make it the game stubborn and difficult for United, but also Liverpool, Leicester, City against Tottenham. I mean, particularly really rules out the Spurs City guys, I think, from a captain perspective generally. If you were going to captain a player from those two sides, it would be De Bruyne all day for me, by the way. Wouldn't consider Kane or Son for the captaincy in that. So then you've got sort of Bruno, obviously Salah is still a home game for Liverpool, but question marks in terms of their setup. That would really put me off. And the alternative is Everton at Fulham, who have lost 3 in a row. So if I get Bruno, I will probably captain him, mate. Slaughter PFK says, hey, James, am I wrong to take Sterling out before this crazy run, since I believe even Cancelo is a bigger threat than Raheem? I don't know how to answer that, mate, that you think that Cancelo is a bigger threat than Raheem Sterling. I don't know how to answer that for you. If that's generally how you feel, you should remove Raheem Sterling from your team. But no. For me, all day long, keep him. Bruno says, Bruno or Vindaloo? Vindaloo, mate, but it's not good for me. Saksham says, pick one for each. Play, bench, sell. Bamford, Kane, CVL. I mean, is that meant to be DCL, Saksham? Play, bench, sell. Play Calvert-Lewin, bench Bamford, sell Kane. There you go. Rhinos leads. Villa look good for sure, but isn't it more about who scores first? They've been gubbed both times, conceded first. Leeds the same. Yes, can be quite a lot, but first goal is important. Allows both of those sides in particular to counter and move the ball forward through transition better. Yeah, there can be a lot in that. There are examples against that, though, this season. I can't think of any at the moment. But I think in the case, yes, for Villa, it has been helpful when they've scored first. Look how they recovered against Southampton for 4-0 down, though. Another 5 minutes, they'd have nicked a draw. Matt Clark says, hi, James. Is bringing in Martial for this week a bad idea with a view to switching Jesus the week after? No, it's not a bad idea. Particularly as by the time you want to make the switch, you might decide you want to do something else. FPL Classico, Man City have won just 3 of the 7 Premier League games, having scored 1 goal per game in the last 5 in the Premier League. I think it's not worth paying 11.5 million for one of their 2 big mids, or even double that to get both mids. Yeah. On the stats, I can't argue it. On what I've seen this season, can't argue it. The key difference for me is they now have a centre forward again. That's the biggest difference. And Sterling and De Bruyne, we're not really judging really over an 8-game period. It's not even 8. Is it 7 games and De Bruyne's missed a couple and they've had 3 or 4 games with no centre forward? I would be judging Raheem Sterling and Kevin De Bruyne on what I've seen over the last 2 or 3 years. Thank you. It would be my opinion. Vincent Ganter, if you could introduce change on rule scoring in FPL, what would it be? There's nothing major. The game's not broken. It's the usual one in terms of clarity on BPS, which feels like a minefield to dig through and find out how somebody got to their points total. There is way too much weightage in the BPS system on penalties, both missed and saved, in my opinion. So, for example, like last week, Jamie Vardy scores the only goal in the game because he's missed a penalty. He's basically got no chance of hitting the BPS. Same happened to Danny Ings in the restart period. And a penalty save nearly guarantees a goalkeeper to hit the bonus. It almost guarantees it. There was an incident the first year City won the league. Not the first year they won the league. When they got to 100 points, City beat Swansea 5-0. And I think Fabianski got top bonus because he saved a penalty which he pushed onto the post and the rebound was scored anyway and he got top fucking bonus. That's laughable. There's too much weightage in BPS on penalties. Other than that, and its clarity, I don't have too many problems with the way the game works personally. Ahmet says, did you notice Vardy 2 non-penalty goals came from Kenji's, the Undertaker, and he came off the bench each time? Yes. Jamie Vardy's XG is obviously massive this season, but then he's taken, 7 penalties? So it bloody should be. Royale says, Watkins or Bamford? Priority for me would be Watkins, but nothing wrong with going towards both, by the way. Alex Abdella says, bench is a mess and currently only player that might not focus on fixing this or focus on some of the key players mentioned for the fixture swing. KDB, Vardy, etc. Thanks. I don't understand the question, Alex. I really apologise there, mate. But yeah, KDB, Vardy, decent assets, mate. That's going to sound so fucking bad on the audio. Alan Mott Daddy, hi, James. Hope all is well. Brighton, why aren't they delivering? Good question. And I haven't got a good answer. So they're one, and I spoke about this a couple of weeks ago before they played Tottenham. Actually, it was before they played West Brom. And they should have lost the game in the end, having been very comfortable. And spoke about that their numbers are so good. The expected goals conceded, the efforts on goal. Danny Welbeck had more touches in the penalty box than any other player last week. Numbers-wise, all really good. It's conviction in what they're doing for whatever reason. The overdoing it with the style, the perhaps not having a natural finisher as such, although I do like Maupay as a forward. I can't explain it. There is still a chance that it will click for them and they'll be really good. But it's not all right at the moment because you've had things behind the scenes like this Maupay incident. And it's worth saying Lewis Dunk has been a really, really big miss over the last 3 fixtures for them. And he obviously does return from suspension for the Villa game, which is quite important. So I expect small upturn for them. I don't think they're going to be in danger of going down, but they might find that they are in a relegation battle because they don't win enough games and they don't score enough goals. They're definitely the best attacking team down there, however, and I think they will improve defensively as well now with Dunk back. But my hopes in pre-season that they could push for a top half, not going to happen. They're just not consistent enough, I'm afraid. I do still enjoy watching them. However, I'm finding them frustrating to watch from a neutral perspective in terms of some of the stuff in front of goal. So Lord knows what it does to Brighton fans. They must pull their hair out. Sviz says, hi, James. Sky fancy football choice between Diaz and Chilwell. I already have KDB to cover City captain, but no Chelsea players. I think you said Chelsea cover won't be needed this year, but can't remember why. Is that right? So I can't promise you that Chelsea cover won't be needed. And it's worth saying the opinion of Chelsea might be in 2 or 3 weeks that they're the best team in the league. Possibly. And then you're going to feel like Chelsea cover is needed. But mapping it ahead in terms of possibilities for single game days, the chances are that there's always something that covers Chelsea. And obviously following a Newcastle game and Leeds game, they have a more difficult run of fixtures coming. So how often would you really want to captain a Chelsea player anyway? I asked the question on the pod, either this Sky pod this week or the week before, about if Chelsea and Tottenham is the best fixture they play on a Sunday in the coming weeks. Would you actually rather captain a Chelsea player or Harry Kane? And I think you'd probably still go Harry Kane, oddly enough, for Sky. So that's one of the reasons why I think it's really not needed. They are unlikely. It's just the way the fixture falls and the opposition that they play in those fixtures, they are really unlikely to fall onto a single game day at the moment. And that's why. And so to answer your question, I would prefer Diaz over Chilwell. Diaz looks like he's going to be 5 to 10 points every week, depending on whether they concede or not. Chilwell is going to be more erratic. There's going to be, with the really good hauls, there's going to be twos and stuff in there as well. So for Sky, I prefer Diaz. For FPL, I would prefer Chilwell. Different structure of games. FPL Classico, in addition to my previous non-Man City attackers comment, I think until City seem to remind their usual strong attacking selves, spending that money in cheaper and better performing attackers is better at the moment. It's fair enough. Let's talk Andy's in. Says, I agree. If I'm lumbering myself with a West Ham defender, I only want to pay 4.5 million. Liam Dorian says, was thinking you would say 50k. Obvious, mate. Kenneth Vaz is De Bruyne must have. Can't seem to fit him in. Jesus, maybe. Snore. Nobody's must have. Shano 83, Trent to Cancelo and Son to KDB. Cheers, mate. Sounds like you've answered your own question. Would be a -4. Maybe not so. Yeah, I think because Trent's out, it's more reasonable. If Trent was fit, I'd be like, nah. But yeah, it's not unreasonable. You might not get the immediate return, but I think you'll probably like the look of it on the other side. Amit says, what does it mean when they say Grealish goes to the next level? Even no fucking clue, because he hasn't got many levels left to go to. Lee Williams says, Dallas apparently injured now. Season keeps on giving. Yeah, we're waiting for confirmation on that, as I mentioned earlier on the stream. Kieran Thompson, do you think more people will forget to do their team this week with international break or the super early deadline last week? Well, presumably people are just going to log in and do their team early, aren't they? Thinking there's games for casuals or such, if you want. I think probably more people had issues being late last week, I should imagine. Hasselbank is win. Thoughts on Vardy for Kane? Yeah, I covered that a little bit earlier. Don't hate that at all. Francis Bilardi, how are you this afternoon, James? Will I get rid of Sterling place of when? I don't understand the question, Francis. Can we double check our questions, please, guys? Buena says, thoughts on my -16 if you've seen it. If not, generally, would you go there with such a mammoth fit? Is that not really your style of play, mate? -16 is not something I think I would ever be pulling, mate. No, I haven't seen it. Prajwell says, hi, James. Would you swap Foden or Sterling for Grealish? With money, no object. Swap Foden for Grealish, mate. Sheila says, there's too many people in that question, mate. I really want to do some non-FPL questions this week, guys. There's a week till deadline. Eric Costello, let's smash the like button, gents, for this absolute legend. Thanks, Eric. That's more like it. Christopher Guerra says, who are you? Who? I'm just a guy, mate, who supports Spurs and talks about football. That's it. Pushcast has got 89 points this game. We moved to 720k from 1.7 million, but my squad looks dodgy with this fixture turn. I still have my wild card. Should I stick with Kane and Son or use wild card and switch to KDB and Vardy? Why do you need to use a wild card, my friend? You want to make the move, mate? -4 for it, mate. You don't need to use the chip, do you? Notorious Nerd, I would rather bring in Bruno than Vardy. Sharpie, Vardy or Calvert-Lewin to replace Kane. I mean, this week, Calvert-Lewin against Fulham, Vardy against Liverpool. Seems straightforward, but if you've got the cojones to go Vardy now, you've got Vardy against Fulham on the other side as well. So it's not an easy one. I'm already sitting there with Calvert-Lewin, so I'm quite happy to be in that place, which a lot of other people will be in at the moment. I don't mind the idea of going Vardy, you know. I mean, I can't say that I think he'll outscore Calvert-Lewin this game week. I don't, but for the next 4 fixtures or so, Vardy could be your answer. Greg Watson, would you risk buying Antonio over Bamford? I probably not at the moment. If you've got no fires and you've got a strong bench, etc., then it's fine. I think Antonio, you need to see fit. You need a clear indication from David Moyes that it's okay. Benny Blanco says Davis to Watkins and Son to Bruno to captain for a -4. It seems fairly straightforward if you're getting another forward in as well. Who does that mean you're going to leave out, though, Benny? Jax B says on goalkeeper bonus, got 10 points Patricio game last week. Wolves lost Vardy penalty. Thanks for telling me something that I obviously didn't know. Pushkar, can you convince Woodward to get Poch in? Ollie has pulled off another escape when his job was on the line. Here's some voodoo powers. This could go until 2035 at this rate. Please write to Woodward. Pushkar, you know it's not going to happen. I spoke about Poch and Manchester United quite a lot last week, so I'm not going to repeat that. Notorious Nerd, which forward do you think can do well over the next 4 or 5 fixtures? Bamford or Antonio or Wilson or Ayew? Well, not Wilson because he's injured by the looks of it. And Jordan Ayew is just never really a signing, is he? So one of the other boys, if it's Antonio fit, that's the man I would back. But you need to know that he is. Victor says, hey, James, got Rashford in my team, but what is your thought on a double up with Bruno? He would replace Son from -4 hit, though. Lots of repetitive questions, guys. Do we ever feel like, let's take a break for a few days? Just enjoy the football. We overthink things, don't we? That Rashford, we don't even know if it's going to be fit yet, Victor. So you might find that you're going Rashford to Bruno if he's not fit, mate. But generally speaking, if he's fit, the double up is fine, mate. Andrew Sands says Lacazette, a huge differential or huge mistake considering their upcoming fixtures. Also, Sheffield United performed better over the last few weeks, but still lost. Could Bash be an option? You presume you mean Chris Basham. I prefer Ampadu, actually, who we obviously mentioned earlier, at 4.4 million. Lacazette, nah, man. I can't be going there. Can't even guarantee being the team for you at the moment. I think Arsenal following Leeds might try and work Aubameyang back, essentially. I would strongly recommend listening to yesterday's Clash to Correspondence, and Lacazette gets one mention. Edwin Grant, if you could sell one, Kane or Son, who? it's a difficult one. And I think it depends what you want to do with your team, right? So for me, it's probably more about removing some of the value I've got up front. So it's probably removing Kane first. It might actually be that they get removed together, although that's probably not going to be till game week 10 for me now because of Trent, Pulisic issues and the like. Look, in my opinion, Kane will outscore Son, but Son still offers tremendous value. So it's a really difficult one. I mean, it's independent of what you want to do with your squad and who you want to move off first. But in terms of their value, which each one of them costs, Kane, in my opinion, will outscore Son, but he also costs 1.4 million more, right? And that's probably what it will equate to over the season, that Kane outscores Sterling by Son by 10 to 15% or so. That would be my expectation. So it's a really close call. There isn't an easy answer for that. Ray Karashi says, hi, James. If you had the choice for the coming weeks, select Bruno or Vardy. Also, favourite player from the retro Serie A days. Mine was Batistuta. Mine was Paul Gascoigne. But other than that, I loved Van Basten and also Baresi and Maldini defensively. I mean, that Milan team, fire, right? So Van Basten was probably the one who just wow the first few times I saw him. Such a shame that his career was cut short like a year later because of injuries. Bruno over Vardy for me, I think. Ray on the immediate. Shano83 says, do you think all Liverpool injuries will stop them win the league? I think it could. I think it's made life a lot more difficult. FPL Big says, PVA a good option. Do you think he will be on pens or will Zaha keep them? I would expect Zaha to keep them because he's been scoring them. So I don't see why that would change. He's their main man, if you will. So I don't see why that would change at this stage. Is he a good option? I think very, very short term, yes. Longer term, no. Personally, I wouldn't really want to be playing that sort of value for it. Excuse me, a Crystal Palace defender. FPO Andy says, afternoon, mate. Hope you're well. Do you think we could get some joy in behind with the upcoming tough fixtures? Yes, we could. But we have to take advantage of those situations because they, in terms of the creativity of them, you get less opportunities to try and maneuver those opportunities because you've got less of the ball. So we have to be quick in terms of what we do. Potentially, yes, but it doesn't always equate to that. Lee Williams says, surely we get the fixture announcements for the Sky Games today. Surely need a week's notice. I would think so. Atul says, who do you think will take free kicks and corners for Liverpool now without Trent? Robertson will still take quite a few. I wouldn't be surprised if Henderson ends up on a few from the right-hand side, possibly even Thiago. Number of options. I think Mo Salah might take a few more. Don't know the answers to that. Edwin Grand says, your thoughts on the Ireland player with COVID situation? Mentioned it at the start. Laughable that a friendly match is going on, but it looks like everyone's going to be okay. Touch wood at the moment. And Pushkar will end with this one. Non-FPL early Euro 2020 predictions. Your 4 semi-finalists and where England end. England to go out in the quarterfinals to Spain in Rome. You've heard it here first. So last 4. I think it could be really open, by the way, because I don't think there's anybody that's great at the moment. Spain, France, Germany, and an outsider, someone you really don't expect, who the draw just falls their way. That's how I'll guess it. England quarterfinals, I think. I don't believe that England can win the tournament playing this basically 5-2-3 that they're playing. I really don't. I think we'll get sussed essentially in midfield quite badly when it comes to it. All right, guys, it's been going for like an hour or so. Really, thanks for joining in. Much enjoyed that, guys. Always a pleasure. Try not to make early transfers. It's a week until deadline at least, or it might even be a bit longer. We don't actually know yet, but hopefully we'll get some fixture news, possibly even later today. I should think Tuesday at the late. Can't go on later than Tuesday, surely. But hopefully we might get some information this afternoon. Thanks very much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Just a note to say in terms of content next week, we're doing a big pod on Monday on homophobia in football. I hope you guys will join us for that and give us our support. We'll put the research and the proper effort into that. It'll be a special. We'll make it a long one. Have a good weekend, guys. And for the benefit of those listening on the audio, cue music, please, man, child.